Ryan Jarrell here for MMA News, and excited to have my next guest on the program. It's Adam Fugitt, who picked up a split decision victory this past Saturday at UFC Vegas 93 over Josh Quinlan. Adam, happy to have you back on the program. Congrats on the win. It was a tough fight. How are you feeling right now?
I'm still, still up there on cloud nine. Just hanging on to being thankful and the gratitude of getting the job done. My opponent was, you know, we both had a lot to fight for, and he was a very tough opponent. Came in there with a goal in mind, and it sucks that I had to be the one to derail that. But I had my own goals and my own dreams in mind as well. So.
Yeah, well, sucks for him. Good for you. And you looked fantastic. I think you set a record for yourself in the UFC for most significant strikes here in this victory over Quinlan. I thought you won the fight. I thought you won, 2 rounds to 1. You looked kind of maybe dejected a little bit before the judge, before actually the decision was rendered. How are you feeling? Were you confident?
So, when they said split decision, I got real nervous. We're still kind of like we're in this spot, and like with judging, I think that we always see the boxing get scored higher than a lot of the kick game. It's different for Muay Thai, my background. So a lot of kicks get scored in Muay Thai, and they're highly kind of touted. And so I was in that moment, I was like, oh no, they didn't score the kicks like I score the kicks. So I kind of thought maybe I was my own worst enemy in that spot. I didn't think that they were going to give me the credit that I feel like I deserve for those. And it's funny because I see on social medias right now that still a lot of fans don't understand kicks. And you see these fans that'll come up to like us fighters, like there's probably multiple videos of like guys like John Jones, or I think there's one I just saw, Paulie Holmes, and got people come up and they're like, oh, give me a leg kick. I want to feel what a leg kick feels like, and then they feel that and they realize how bad that hurts. And so I just want people to realize, like, if that hurts in the leg that bad, imagine how bad it feels on your wrists and your forearms. And if a guy's main weapon is, his 1-2, I'm really trying to take that weapon away from him as well, when I'm kicking that forearm. So you can call it a block all you want, but if you felt it, you would know that you're not really blocking anything when you take it on the forearm.
Yeah, it's really tough to understand just how hard and how difficult it is to absorb those kicks if you haven't trained and gone, with high level fighters like yourself. I mean, you landed a lot of kicks that had to have been the game plan going in there to
Oh yeah.
to really, keep him guessing, land kicks, whether it's up top, down low. How did you feel that you executed the game plan overall?
Honestly, like almost to a fault. Um, in that first round, definitely to a fault. I think that people I keep seeing a lot of folks like, oh, it was round one to Quinlan, um, and I can see how they would think that. He kind of controlled more of the octagon in the first round, just because I was a little bit more passive. He's a very explosive, powerful athlete. So I knew my biggest concern was in the pocket with him in the phone booth, and I needed to try to negate that as much as possible. But he didn't. He kind of played the aggressor in the beginning, and I was kind of standing out there in my range, and like I said, almost to a fault, because I was able in the second and third round to kind of take over the octagon control and kind of show, like, I can control the center. I can be the aggressor, as much as him. And so that was definitely, I think if I would have done that sooner in the first round, I would have stole that round from him. He landed, a couple of good shots, a good flurry to the body, but not too much more. Especially when you look at the cards, his significant strikes, I think, beat me by like 1 or 2 in that first round. So I think I could have swayed people's mind if I would have just been a little bit more aggressive in controlling the cage in that first round.
I ask this question a lot to fighters, and so I hate to sound redundant, but when you do lose a fight, I mean, you were 1-2 in the UFC coming into this one. Did you feel, extra pressure to go in there and not just win, but really win impressively? Because, you never really know nowadays what they're looking at. I mean, if you drop to 1-3, that doesn't leave you in the best standing in the UFC. Did you feel that going in?
Yeah, and I've been telling every interviewer, that I've been working with, this, the story of this fight was we're both 1-2. Both of us kind of had a bit of a unlucky first contract, but both of us are kind of on that, you know, not kind of. We were both, I feel like, on the chopping block. Winner stays, loser goes home. That's what I felt from this whole camp, and you can call that added pressure, and for sure, I could understand why people would think that, but for me, it was just added motivation. And coming into this one, I knew that I could get in there and get in the phone booth with him and really put myself in a position to I could win or I could lose, and in there in the phone booth where he's going to have his greatest opportunity. And but darn it, I can scrap with the best of them. That's my ego, and I wanted to get a finish. But talking to my coaches, it was more important to put on a dominant, kind of controlling fighting with my best weapons at my range.
Mm-hmm.
We got to get the W. That's what matters. And they really challenged me to focus. And I'm a competitor. I wouldn't think that when I get in there, focusing is any kind of it would be any of my issues, right? But it takes a lot to not get kind of sucked into that, like Max Holloway, Gagey kind of exchange at the end where egos are flying. It's like, no, stay right here. Let's throw down, and it takes a lot to kind of keep, at least for me, keep myself out of those exchanges, because I do want to be an exciting fighter. I want to put on shows that people, can be, happy with and enjoy watching.
Well, you definitely did that in this one. How did you feel going into round three, and what was the corner advice that you got from your team?
So round three, we basically, no sugarcoating it. They said at best we got one apiece. At best, my coaches were pretty confident we got one apiece, and they basically told me like, you can't back off the throttle. Like we gotta, if anything, we gotta grab the next gear, and we gotta really solidify this round, to get the judges, decision is what they were telling me. And so, going into that third round, like it was, being my second time going to the third round, and being that I, was kind of on path to break my significant strike record, from previous fights. I, I felt great. I felt good, maybe it was the lack of, wrestling, that and grappling, because that stuff's so strenuous. And, I could have tried to force that a little bit more, but I just really got the feeling that, um, that was a very going to be a very challenging path. I think they really planned to stop my wrestling and my grappling, almost thinking that that was my only game, but I pride myself on being a melting pot of techniques and skills. So, I just really had to rely on my striking, which I'm confident in. And I knew going into the third round that I could seal it by just putting more strikes on my opponent and really, just taking a hold of the accelerator.
To me, you really looked like an evolved fighter in the cage there this past Saturday night. How would you rate your overall performance on a scale of 1 to 10?
Oh man, you're asking me. I'm my own biggest critic. I mean, I know there's so much more I can do, and so I'm gonna give myself like a 6.5. There's so much more that I can do. I really feel like coming down here, to Arizona, working with the coaches here at Fight Ready, Eddie Chaw, Santino DeFranco, Coach Allen, Coach Jameson, Coach Angel, like all those guys have really, kind of opened my eyes, as well as, getting my butt kicked by some of these training partners down here, Ray Waters, Dan Moret, and of course Kelvin Gaslam. It's really opened my eyes, and I have so many areas that I can improve on, and it's not like I got to add a bunch of new skills or these massive like projects to grab this new tool. It's like I got to sharpen some of the ones that these little things up, and I think that we will just continue to see me be the best fighter that I can be each time I get in there. So I'm super excited for that. And of course, it comes down to mental preparation too. So, which I feel like, is another part of my game that I'm really evolving in, getting to work with, uh, the PI, sports psychologist, Micah.
Yeah, well, definitely excited to see what is next for you. So you're 2-2 now in the UFC. Was that the last fight on your deal? Do you have to renegotiate that now?
Yeah, so from everything that I've been told, that was the last fight of my deal, and we're hopefully going to get a new contract here in the next couple of days. I um, need to get back in touch with my manager today and see where we're at on that. But he kind of gave me every indication that that would be happening. So um, we'll see when that happens. I'm super excited. A new contract means that I get to continue this journey of being a professional athlete. For a little while longer.
Yeah, no doubt, man. How did you celebrate this win? Now, what was the food of choice? I'm sure you indulged a little bit after a hard camp and a hard fight.
Oh yeah, I don't know. I don't think the camera's helping it. Is doing me disservices, I guess you say. That face is pretty puffy from all the carb intake that I've had. I We went back to the hotel and got a big old burger, and Iridium always drops off crumble cookie. Shout out to Jacob Paria for bringing in the crumble cookie. Usually they come in on Fridays, but he wasn't able to get back into town on Friday night, which is probably a good thing. I don't, eating crumble cookie on Friday night before your fight, that hurts a little bit the next day. So, but he brought him in on after the fight, and so had a big burger, some French fries, and some crumble cookie to round out my night before I ended up hitting the hay. And surprise, surprise, this time I was able to actually get some sleep that night. The adrenaline high kind of finally wore off, and I got a good, like 6.5 hours of sleep.
Oh, 6.5. That's still not enough. Is that, do you normally not get that much sleep?
No, I mean, I'm usually good for 8 or 9, but just we stayed up a little late, and I don't know, maybe it's the age coming in. If the sun hits me whatsoever, I'm immediately like, oh, it's daylight out. I gotta wake up. So
I'm with you 100%, man. Here on the East Coast, the sun cracks through the window before 5 a.m. and I'm wide awake. I can't fall back asleep. So I'm with you there. Uh,
right,
one
we
thing
used
I
to just
wanted,
be able to power through that.
right? Yeah, when you're super young, it doesn't matter. You just stay asleep until however long. But you get a little older, and your body naturally wakes up, which isn't a bad thing. I
No,
wanted to
not at
ask you
all.
too, Adam. It was 1 year almost since you had your last fight. Was there a reason for that long of a layoff? Was there an injury that you had to kind of recover from?
So yeah, I ended up. I didn't get an MRI on it. I got an X-ray on it, but I'm pretty sure like I put a stress fracture in my left shin, uh, either sometime in camp for the Mike Malott fight, or yeah, it was definitely sometime in camp during the Malott fight, and so it why I think it was a stress fracture. Again, this is all thought. There's nothing to prove this. Is basically anytime I kicked with that leg, the left leg, I would immediately have kind of what you would have when somebody calf kicks you. You lose all flexion in that foot, and basically I just wouldn't be able to walk on it. So they asked me to fight in August, and being that I probably couldn't, I wasn't able to really prepare the way I wanted to. I kind of told them what I was dealing with. I just kind of missed out on you miss an opportunity, and you got to recover and you got to heal up, and it's unfortunate. And I think that's kind of what kept me out, was just getting that injury and then missing that opportunity. I wish I could have taken that fight at that moment. It was, over in, I believe it was scheduled for Seoul
Okay.
for us to go over there. But yeah, I wasn't able to take it. And, when you're not able to take a fight, you kind of get pushed to the back a little bit, and it sucks, but it is what it is, and everything happens for a reason. And obviously that happened so I could win on this last Saturday. So.
Yeah, no doubt. And obviously it's well documented. You made the move to fight ready in Arizona. Tell me, is there something that you can point towards? Obviously, you looked great on the feet here in this last fight, the win over Quinlan, but how much has your game evolved? Like how much better are you now versus when you made your UFC debut? And what can you point towards as the reasoning for that?
Um, Honestly, I think I told Michael this, just like we kind of had, had this like me against the world kind of mindset, and I wanted to make it out of my hometown. And I did that. I accomplished those things, and I continue to stay there. But you kind of hit a wall, you hit a plateau, I guess you could say, or I did, where I'm the big guy in the gym, the big name in my gym. And, all the guys I'm training with are essentially my amateur fighters that I'm preparing for amateur fights. They don't want to kick coach too hard and at risk of him kicking back. Just little things like that. I was much more of had my coach's hat and my teacher's cap on more than I did at being a student. So coming down here, putting myself in a bigger pond, with bigger fish, and it really forced me to become a student again. I can't, I don't have these amateur guys coming up to me asking me, what my perspective and what my thoughts are on, everything. And uh, so they're way less of like a role model type deal down here and just more of a student. And it really just got me back to, like, it's a shell shock kind of thing when you realize like, oh, I don't have everything figured out, but it's also a very freeing thing, so just realizing that I don't have all the right answers and I probably never will, and to continue to grow and mature. I think that's what this has given me, and along with the master class, the world championship level coaching that they have down here. I really have, I didn't have anybody to call me on my bullshit really back home, so, and there's plenty of that here. So,
Now, did you move there permanently or are you going back and forth right now?
so right now I plan on going home and, cause I still have a house in Oregon and everything, plan on going back home, seeing my family. I got two nephews and a niece that want to spend time with Uncle A. And so I got to go back and see them and see my folks, my sister and brother-in-law, and just let my body rest up a little bit, and then I'm going to be coming back out here, probably looking for something a little bit more permanent out here, just so that I can you know a lot of your growth is going to happen in between fights, right? Because when you get that name, you want to immediately kind of go and into your camp, and you want to start putting together your best tools. You want to put your best foot forward towards the right game plan. So in between camp is when you really get to kind of like work on those things that you want to start, getting better at.
Mhm.
So I want to be able to do that. I want to be able to be kind of getting that tutelage from Coach Eddie and Coach Santino in between camps.
So assuming that, you do ink this new UFC contract, which I'm sure you will, what is the perfect time frame for you to jump back in the octagon?
It sounds like they already kind of have an idea. It sounds like the fall is when it's going to happen. So, you know, not really much time at all. And I haven't fought. I haven't achieved my goal of trying to get 3 fights in a year in the UFC yet, and so that's a little disheartening. I definitely, you know, prior to getting in the UFC, prior to the pandemic, I was always a minimum of 3, if not 4 or 5 fights a year kind of guy. So, hopefully that's not an age thing. Hopefully that's not an old age thing but I really want to shoot for, trying to get at least 3 fights in a year with the UFC, and really, put myself out there for fans to see that I can be a workhorse like that. So,
So is there a chance that maybe we could see you September and then again in December at the end of the year?
I mean, that would be amazing. That's that is what my hope is. That's what I'm shooting for. I want to be active.
Okay, that's exciting, man. Let me ask you a little bit about your division, the welterweight division, easily one of the deepest divisions in the UFC. Right now, the champ is Rocky Edwards, and he's taking on Bilal next. How do you see that fight playing out? It's a rematch, but obviously the first fight ended kind of bizarrely. Well, what do you think we're going to see here in this next title fight?
I really haven't caught a ton of Bilal stuff. Um, I've been a Leon Edwards fan for a long time. Prior to his first fight with his very first fight with Usman, I thought that he had the makings of potentially being the champ, and so it's nice to see him get there. And um, again, I don't know much about Bilal, but I ever since Leon got that belt, it seems like he kind of got that championship boost that you get when you see these guys get when they get the belt. They jump up another. If it's an overall ranking on ESPN or UFC 4, he's jumped up to 98 or 99 overall. So I think that Leon's gonna get in there and defend his belt.
Out of those guys that haven't had a title shot yet, but are kind of like young upcomer contenders, guys like Shavkat Rakhmonov, JDM, who is the guy that kind of jumps off the page to you that you feel like will be an eventual champion one day?
JDM's got really clean stuff, and I know that he didn't get he got some I believe he got some like crap for maybe not having the best grappling, you know. But when you got the clean striking that he's got, really starting to hone your takedown defense, and then after that, if you do get taken down, your ways to return to your feet, like I think that he's definitely got the makings to be up there, to make a run at that belt for sure. Just off of his elite sense of striking and range, those things, along with a really strong takedown defense and or a technical stand up game, like we've seen time and time again. Those are recipes for champions.
Yeah, no doubt. A big fan of JDM. So excited to see him back in action, and hopefully he'll be healthy again soon. Also wanted to get your thoughts on Conor McGregor. Obviously, the fight with Michael Chandler was canceled again. And he's a guy that I don't think could ever make 155 again. I mean, maybe he could, but he's already changed his body so much. He looks like a bodybuilder. So I have to imagine at the lowest weight class he'll be fighting at is welterweight. What do you think we will see from Conor again if he does fight? Are his best days behind him, or do you feel like he could return to top form?
You know, I'm not trying to kick a guy when he's down or any of that, but I lived through the Connor come up the double champ stuff. We gotta witness that beforehand. I gotta witness that, completely. And I hold on to those ones, right? That was a special time. That was You could really feel that energy off of that man in those days. And again, I'm not trying to kick a man when he's down, but he's just not that. And I don't even think he's any. I think that Viking hair Connor is still leagues ahead of this one. Not saying that he doesn't have that. He may still have the hand of God, where he touches you and you go to sleep. He might still have that, but I just don't think that this Connor is anywhere near those other ones. So, and again, I'm not trying to kick a man when he's down, but I'm happy to have been able to live through the notorious days. And
Um,
I
yeah.
just don't really look forward to anything in the future, because I don't want to see him get in there and either get injured again or um, get completely, his lights turned out. Like that's not how I want to remember him. I want to remember the guy that got his second strap and then tells everybody that he doesn't have to apologize to. He has absolutely nobody to apologize to. That's what I want to remember him as.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm with you. I agree. It's tough to, I guess, be your absolute best or a savage in this game when you're what's that saying? Like sleeping in silk sheets. Like that's Connor. I mean, he's a bazillionaire and he doesn't have to fight. I think when he was at his best, he was hungry and he was on the come up, trying to be the best, and he achieved that. And then superstardom kind of set
And
in.
it, when he was at his best, I don't think he says some outlandish stuff now, very outlandish stuff, but I don't think it was far off from where he was when he was at his best. The difference is when he was at his best and he was in that state of hunger, there was a sense of realism there. That was, whenever you have to fake a persona or fake a personality, like fans of the sport really easily they pick up on it. It's not a good selling point. I don't think you ever really get good feedback on it. But when he was in his when he was in those notorious days, um, I just think that was the most real version of you were going to get, and I think that's what everybody gravitated to.
Yeah, you're right. And when you said, maybe when you're faking a persona, the first person that came to mind is Colby Covington. And everything that I hear is that, he's like a really good guy, and he created this persona to basically stay in the UFC and, sell pay-per-views and this and that. Well, let me ask you this one other thing here about trash talk and this whole topic. How would you compare Chael Sonnen and his trash talk to Connor in his prime?
I didn't. I'll be honest. I just saw a clip of Chael and some of his trash talk the other day, and I'm not a big trash talk guy. And I remember not appreciating that time enough. I remember being a hater, of that because uh, Chael changed the game. He really brought the art of storytelling into MMA, and I, I come from a wrestling foundation that basically said, don't act like you're surprised. Go out there and be about it. Be humble. Win like you've done it 1,000 times, and shake your opponent's hand, your teammate, or your opponent's hand, and walk off there with your head held high, and don't ever bring any type of disrespect to our team, kind of thing. So when he was talking all that smack, it just really went against some of the values that I had at that time, and I couldn't appreciate it for what it was, which was, the art of storytelling. The really great, fighters do that,
Mhm.
and so back then I was a bit of a hater and immature, and
Okay.
now I've definitely gotten over that. And like I said, I caught that video today. I was like, man, I can't believe I forgot about that. That's so freaking hilarious that he said that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
So
he was one of my favorites. Chael was the absolute man. Adam, as always, I appreciate your time. Great talking to you. We got to do this more often, so I'll make sure I reach out to Ed once your next fight is announced. Hopefully, it is very soon. Again, congrats on the win over Josh Quinlan. Before we do sign off, I want to give you the floor. If there's anyone you want to thank, anything you want to plug, floor is yours.
yeah, so I had three local businesses up in Oregon that helped me make this transition down here, and without them, it honestly wouldn't have happened. I would kid you not, I was back against the wall with the last bit of money I had in my savings account. So shout out to Back to Strength Chiropractic, Alpha Towing, and Skynet Security. Without those guys, I wouldn't this wouldn't have been possible. And I'm gonna give a shout out to both Fight Ready and Art of War MMA. All my coaches, Eddie Chaw, Santino DeFranco, my original MMA coaches, Jason Georgiana and Cobb Tonkside, like my Muay Thai coach back there. Like shout out to all of them. Not about forgetting the people that helped me to get here. So thank you for having me on, and I look forward to having many more conversations with you.